Everyone, thanks so much for being here on All Access Live with Kevin Rankin. I have to tell you guys, I'm so excited about today's show. I had a few minutes to just catch up with my buddy Johnny Vatos Hernandez a little bit ago, and he just reminded me how much fun and full of joy this guy is. Before we get started with the conversation, though, I want to thank my sponsors. This show would not be even available to you if it weren't for my buddies at Five Star Guitars. If you go to fivestarguitars.com/all access live, you're going to find a whole series of pages that have products available to you as a friend of the show. If you use the promo code of All Access 15, you're going to save 15% off everything you see. And since they are based in Oregon, there's no sales tax. So if you're down in LA and you want to play rock and roll guitar and join a band and be a rock star like my next guest, then go to fivestarguitars.com/all access live. Use that promo code. You're going to save tons of money. Besides the promo code, you're going to save no sales tax. So let them know that I sent you. Also, if you're watching this show on anything else other than YouTube, do me a favor. Go to youtube.com/at access Kevin, or you can go to accesskevin.com and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You're going to find over 260 episodes of conversations that I've done. You can also become a member, not just a subscriber, but a member of this channel. And members get exclusive benefits like specific access to certain interviews. I just had a great conversation with my pal Kelly Keegi from Night Ranger at his place. And I had Cy Kernan from The Fix and also Midyear from Ultravox. We hung out backstage at their shows in Portland. And so only members will have the first access to those. You'll also get some shout outs and some other benefits. So go to youtube.com/at accesskevin and become a member. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and like this video if you have a good time, which I know you will, because my next guest not only is an incredible drummer, but he's an intelligent, fun, happy-go-lucky dude who just happens to have no problem at all sharing his opinion and heart with everybody. So, Mr. Hernandez, how you doing, sir? Vatos.
Hey, how are you, man? I'm doing okay. Doing all right.
I was just really appreciative of the fact that on a somewhat dreary day outside, I had your smiling face to make me laugh earlier. So, um, my man, aside from the fact that you are an incredible drummer, from most people know you right as the drummer from Oingo Boingo,
Mhm.
but you've got a pretty incredible rock and roll music history from dating back to like Helen Reddy, and you even had
Yeah.
performances on the Tonight Show, man.
Yeah, that was a big dream come true. I've every decade's been like a different genre, a different thing going on. What was really cool is that I started playing when I was like 15, 16, and I started, back in the late 60s, you could do 6 nights a week. And I was talking to my son earlier about it. My routine was to join a band, and by Monday, you didn't know what the band was doing, and by Saturday, you played a heck of all the top 40 songs you could ever imagine. And by the second week, I was really bored, and by that Saturday, I was overplaying. And by the following Saturday, after about 3 weeks, they'd have to fire me because I was constantly overplaying.
You had, well, as you're younger, I mean, that's the whole deal, right? You want to show everybody
Yeah,
all the chops you've got,
right.
and
But
um,
being young and starting back then, so every decade,
yeah, you know, I okay. So your son, you were talking about, is he a musician as well?
Yes, my son Freddie, he plays bass. He's more legitimate school, study with guys with the LA Philharmonic, does
Oh,
orchestra gigs, and he does studio work on upright bass, and he also plays regular bass, and he plays with the Oingo Boingo former members, subbing for John once in a while, and he
there
has a
you go,
couple of other acts he plays with.
man. I'm glad that you have him involved in the Oingo Boingo former members gig. My son too, he's 23. He's an incredible drummer, and as I don't know about this situation with you, but for me, I know that everywhere we would go and people would meet my kid, they'd go, "Oh, of course you're a drummer. You know, your dad's a drummer." And I think it steered him away from wanting to play drums. He's now a hip hop singer as well. He's a great songwriter and
Good.
he's a good performer. But um, he smokes me, man, a much better drummer. But I think
Yeah.
it was tough because if you're out there and you're public, people see you, you're always going to have to sort of live in somebody's shadow, unless you kind of go out there and make a name for yourself. So
And
your boy Freddie.
yeah, in the law of the jungle too, that means we're successful parents because children have to always that are healthy are always better than their parents.
Yeah,
And my son's a better musician than I am.
that's
I mean,
that's
he
what we see.
intimidates me when I'm playing the guitar and I go, "Your D string's out of tune." I go, "All right, I'm not playing guitar in front of you anymore."
I mean,
He starts
yeah,
telling
but
me what.
how old is he?
He's 33.
Okay, yeah, so he's been around. He's a cat for sure.
Yeah, he's a cat.
You know, from my boy, it's interesting that he's a studied musician. He knows all that stuff. And what I told him early on, and I think you're an educator too. You've taught a lot of musicians in your past. Um, for me, I would have a lot of kids come in to learn drums, and I'd say, look, you've got the fundamentals. You're long past me in terms of academic stuff. So let's talk about the real thing behind drumming and musicians in general. You can get all these chops together, but a huge part of it is the hang, right? So,
Right.
like
The
your
culture
whole
of
history, the
right.
culture.
It's the culture, and every genre has its own culture and its own rules. When like I said, I was playing in clubs when I first started playing. I did my first tour, which is a USO tour, and then I was doing a lot of pit orchestra stuff. And by the '70s, I started playing with Helen Reddy. I was
Right.
doing TV shows like the Midnight Special and Don Kirshner's rock concert and all that kind of stuff. So it
Let me ask you. I don't want to interrupt you with there,
no,
but it's so funny because this is part of your history, and you can just go right into that. But this is kind of my point. It's not like you just happened upon the Helen Reddy gig, right? I mean, somebody
right.
must have like there because of the basic building blocks that you put together and the connections you made. So tell me how you got the Reddy gig.
Okay, well, that's a great story because I was really, really, at various times in your career, you get frustrated and you feel like you want to quit. And so here I was like 19, 20 years old, 20 years old. And I'm playing in this avant-garde jazz group. Here I've done like pit shows, I've done recordings, I've done all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And here I am playing with this avant-garde free jazz, incredible um, group, and Dave Parlato, the bass player, is playing bass, and
Okay.
Dave Parlato is a LA standard. He's just an amazing player. Played with Frank Zappa, played with all kinds of incredible people. His dad, Charlie Parlato, was the lead, one of the trumpet players in the Lawrence Welk show.
Oh, right.
So Dave is sitting across from me at a rehearsal, and he goes, "You know what? You can do anything. You need a break. I tell you what, I'm going to get you that gig with Helen Reddy." And I'm like, "You're going to get me a gig with Helen Reddy?" He goes, "Yeah, my friend Peter Donald's going to be quitting, and you're the guy. You should get this gig." So I went, "Okay, man." So I got this. I got the call. They go, "Yeah, this is John. Dave said you're great, and great, man." I said, "Well, great. You mean I got the gig?" "Yeah, you got the gig." I'm thinking, "Oh boy, I can't wait to rehearse." "Oh wait, when are we going to rehearse?" So I called the conductor. "When are we going to rehearse?" "Oh, I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I'll let you know." 3 weeks before, let you know, let you know. Finally, we're on our way in the car, and in driving from LA to San Diego, where the first concert was, and he hands me the book, and I'm like, "Why did we ever rehearse?" He goes, "Oh, Dave said you could read anything. You can
Oh,
do anything. We'll be fine." So I'm sight reading the gig, right?
beat
And of
charts.
course, it was a piece of cake. It was
Right.
pop stuff, and it was Helen Reddy and all her hits, and I pretty much have listened to some of her music. But we played the song called uh, uh, a Leon Russell song, and it was like, "Well, I'm lost, Bluebird" or something like that. And it was like, "Well, you're lost in the night. The icy wind is howling out your name." It's one of those kind of songs, right? And
Yeah.
it's supposed to be a halftime country funk,
Okay.
you know, one of those. And I'm sight reading, not a clue, never heard the song in my life. I see all the 16th notes, so I went, "Must be a samba."
Oh
Well,
no.
And I played a samba all the way through. She sang it like a trooper. And
Oh no!
at the end of the thing, she goes, "It's not a samba," but that was
Oh,
really good. That
just
was
after
really
the song
good. I
or after
liked
the
it.
gig, I can picture it. How many gigs have you been on where you pulled that off and you get
Yeah, it's like
that look on stage? The pucker moment, man. Yeah.
yeah, I've had this carefree attitude because I enjoy every day. I make sure every day is a fun day or it's not worth living.
Yeah.
It's just there's always something funny, and the universe always has a way to make me smile, or whether it's something really beautiful about somebody or something, or a great idea for a song, or a tuning on a snare drum. They're like, "Whoa, my God, this is amazing!" Or there's always something exciting to be excited about. So I'm it's really fun. All these different genres have always kind of taken me to these new places. Like
Yeah.
along with Helen Reddy, I played with Peter Allen in the '70s. So this is my '70s era. Peter Allen, and we did a whole month of shows. He was an amazing guy. I got to play the Tonight Show. Got to play the theme with Johnny Carson. Have Ed
Wait a minute.
Chauncey sitting there next to me going, "Okay, kid, you're swinging pretty good. All right, kid, you're doing good."
Were you
Johnny
guys
had-
double drumming?
Yeah, it was. I got to play his drum set. Boom, 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 and boom, here she is, Helen Reddy, drum roll. My sister, ding, ding. So it was a kind of a dream come true.
Yeah.
And in the middle of all that, I played with crazy stuff like Spike Jones Jr., where we did all
Really?
these like cocktails for two and all that. All these incredible old Spike Jones. He had the original cowbells and he shot off guns, and
Like doing like
it was
Foley stuff? Well, let
it
me
was
ask. Okay,
totally
so those
nuts.
gigs came. I mean,
It's-
obviously,
yeah,
if you hadn't done those gigs, those fusion gigs, we're doing the avant-garde stuff, and this bass player is like, all right, you can pull off pretty much anything.
yeah.
But okay, so you had the facilities, but
So that
if you'd been an asshole, there's no way you would have gotten the referral, right? I
right,
mean,
exactly. And I when my assholeness comes out, it's when you mess with me or my friends or the people around me, then I become real kind of like gang like,
yeah.
like they don't mess with the band. You can't mess with the band, man. Well, you guys are a bunch of band members. Come into the kitchen or shut up. Or, hey,
Well, so that actually, so we were talking about this earlier, man, and I promised you, I said, all right, I won't get into politics and religion and all that kind of crap.
Okay.
But you were just telling me about the New Year's gig offer, and
Oh yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Let's not talk about that.
But all right, so we don't have to talk specifics.
No.
But,
But just sometimes, just because you do have to be more careful of what you say anymore, because I have friends that want to harm you for voting incorrectly,
well,
which I
can I
just
tell you-
laugh. I laugh in their face. I go, "You're kidding. You really do. Is that stupid or what? Come on."
You know what, man? I'll tell you this. Like, one beautiful thing about where I'm at. So I moved from Portland, Oregon, to Santa Fe, New Mexico, about 4.5 months ago.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, I could not tell you how one person, not only in my neighborhood, but in the city, votes. I have not seen one protest. I haven't seen a flag. I haven't seen a bumper sticker. And I'm all for voicing your opinion about, like, and exercising your right to vote and all that stuff. But when you got somebody like in your face trying to dictate how you should be, or
Oh,
lambasting you, because it's such a refreshing thing, man, to just have a little bit of freedom from that, so that we can have real civil conversation. But
yeah. Well,
it's nice.
you heard what happened in New Mexico today, though.
What happened?
Oh man, I mean, they arrested this guy Pena, who got elected, who lost his Republican race, and hired hitmen to go shoot up Democratic people that won.
Are you kidding? Oh wait,
No,
look. So so they arrested him today.
Yeah, they arrested him today,
Okay.
so you can check that out. It's like,
All right, so I'm guilty of one thing that I did because you mentioned having like every day there's something really nice about you can find something beautiful about your day or something to
yeah,
focus on to be grateful for. One thing that I
right.
did, especially just during the pandemic and just before, is I looked at all the stuff that was outside my control, the news, and I stopped watching the news, man. I
There
couldn't
you
do it
go.
anymore. I couldn't do it, dude. And like when we're out on the road, and you know this, right? Because you're surrounded by bandmates and you're kind of stuck in close environments.
Yeah,
Not everybody has the same opinion as you,
right.
and uh, and it's okay to be around other-minded people. But I also don't want to make it a focal point, especially when you can't have a logical conversation with someone. So I don't watch the
Yeah,
news, and my life
yeah,
is, and it's not that I want to put my head in the sand for sure, but
yeah,
I do try to find some gratitude in every day.
yeah.
You mentioned like that is kind of a ritual thing. Do you have rituals? Like, do you have a daily sort of thing that you do to get up and start your day?
Um, yeah, coffee.
Yeah,
I get up, I get up
round three.
and watch the late night shows on rerun,
Yeah.
and that's basically it. And then I get up. I like to practice usually in the morning,
Okay.
when I'm freshest and I can think and I'm usually done by about 1 o'clock of fooling around with all that.
Yeah.
Tweak stands. I right now I'm going through because you always got to prepare for the next gig and what you're going to be doing, and so one of the things I've done, I have a really beautiful, nice jazz kit that I set up with all kinds of weird stuff on it, and then I have my congas and timbales and all that stuff, and I play along with crap on YouTube, which is really really fun.
Yeah.
So much great information on YouTube, and um, it's amazing. I was talking to somebody who was at the at a party, and they were saying that Stanley Clark's new drummer, this guy works. I think Michael White. Michael White, the drummer, and I think he handles a lot of stuff for Stanley. And Stanley said, "Give me the three best guys under 21 years old on YouTube," and
Really.
that's how they found their new drummer. And so
Man,
it's
I
like
hear that more and more, like it's
it's
crazy. And
it's a
I mean, we can
horrifying way to think about it.
because we
It's a
didn't
whole
grow up with that, right? I mean, we grew up like having to practice, and you got your rudimental
yeah,
stuff out, right? You got your George Lawrence Stone book, and you got your practice
yeah.
pad. And yeah, did you study early on? Did you have a teacher that kind of
Oh,
guided you
sure,
along the way?
sure. I Because a teacher will always save time, and it
Yeah.
helps you cut through to the chase. My first teacher I studied with a year. He was a rudimental guy, um, and in high school, and then I started studying with Freddie Gruber. I had the good fortune
What?
of studying all my life with Freddie Gruber. From the time I was
Wow.
18, that's where I met Don Lombardi when I was
Oh,
18 years old. So
hold on a second. People don't
I've
know
known
this.
Don since the 1970.
So the president of DW under John Good there,
Yeah,
but for those of you guys that are watching this that don't know, Freddie Gruber across the board is universally known as the greatest fundamental sort of drum educator. Guys, early on, the traditional jazz guys studied with him. His hands and his rudimental work is phenomenal. Guys like Neil Peart from Rush, the drummer from Rush, had to completely relearn how to play his drums because he played with the Buddy Rich Big Band, and he put together this assemblage of the greatest drummers out there to pay tribute to the Buddy Rich Big Band. And when he did so, all these other guys kind of schooled him because Neil wasn't the studied, trained, classically jazz drummer, and his chops weren't really there, right? So he was so
right.
stiff, and
Yeah,
all these guys were saying, "Hey, man, you need to go to see Freddie Gruber." So Johnny Vatos Hernandez got his whole life to get this education. And was
yeah.
he a taskmaster? Was he difficult?
He was he was he was really meticulous. Took everything apart. The first time I studied with him was like 2.5 years, and I was starting to play. Toward the end of that 2.5 year run, it was like 5 against 7. That
Wow.
stuff that I thought just sucked. Because it
It,
was like, what does this have to do with anything? So I was already subbing for, like, I got to sub at the Daniels Big Band a few times. I studied with Ralph Humphreys when he wrote that book, The Even and the Odds. So it was
Yeah,
just manuscript paper because Freddie Gruber goes, "You want to learn to play that? Go study with Ralph. He'll show you how to play that." So Freddie Gruber was an incredible influence on me, and I even named my son after him.
that's where it came from.
That's where Freddie came from.
Wow.
I one day I told him I was going to have a son, and I go, "Freddie, I'm going to name my son after you." And he went, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, Freddie. I why not? Because he wanted to have a kid before he passed away." And I said, "I don't think you're going to have one, so I'm going to name my son after you." So he goes, "You're
Wow,
going to give me
man.
a namesake?" I go, "Yep." So
Vatos, that is a beautiful man. That is a really cool legacy, brother. That really is, man.
yeah,
And I'm sure your son understands and appreciates the importance of that significance.
he does. He got to hang out with Freddie, and on it was funny on Freddie's deathbed. I was sitting on the bed with Neil Peart and myself and Freddie. And Neil and I were talking about, yeah, man, you remember this drummer? You remember that one? Hal Blaine. Yeah, remember all through this stuff. We were like talking like we were like middle school friends or something.
Wow. You
He
and
was
Neil.
he was down to earth and sweet, and my son Freddie was there. We were just I had just seen the VH1 thing special on Rush, and I really didn't, I had my opinions about Neil's playing, and it
Yeah.
was very legit, kind of stiff, and it was blah blah blah. And but I saw this and I realized what an incredible talent and
Yeah.
human being he was. What a writer and his
Really.
composition and his mind. And
Yeah.
so when I saw it, and now like 2 days later, I'm sitting next to him on Freddie Gruber's deathbed, and I'm in my mind's going,
Yeah.
and so I said, I just saw the VH1 special on you and the band. He goes, "Oh, I never watched that stuff. I don't even want to know what they said. I don't care." And I thought he's just like me.
Yeah.
When we did our farewell concert, they videotaped it, and I wouldn't even watch it. I hated it.
Really?
And one New Year's, my son's cat ran away, and he had gone to spend the night with his friend. And I thought, my God, I just lost my son's favorite cat. I got real depressed and started hitting the tequila bottle. And I told my wife, "Put that tape on. I want to see what it was. Come on, put it on there."
Oh no.
Took me 10 years, and I sat there and I watched it and I went, "Whoa, that was really good. That was a
Man.
good show." I've never
Well, why wouldn't you have wanted to watch it? Is it because you're humble and you didn't want to think about that, or was it because of the significance of calling it at the end?
it was all of that.
Yeah.
It was all of that. It was the end, and it was it really I have part of my credo. One of my things is that you can enjoy a concert, you can high five and be in full glory the night after a great performance, but the next day when you get up, you got to take the trash out, got to start all over again.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Like reset.
so the show was done, they taped it, the weekend was over, farewell shows, goodbye. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. It's in my head. I got it.
Yeah. Was
I don't even care what it's like, and I know it's not going to be as good as I imagined it. But when I saw it finally, it wasn't bad. It was pretty good.
when people, because I mean, the band and the music influenced so many people. Of course, so many musicians, but we
Right.
see the resurgence, right? I mean, we see right now that all the people that grew up with that music are at this point where their kids are out of the house, they're reliving sort of the youth of their time from those 80s, and um,
And they're
they
bringing their
this
kids. They're
they
bringing
and
their
that's the
kids.
thing, yeah. I mean, and movies and games and all these TV shows
Right.
end up sort of paying homage to that too. So
We
when
just did
like,
a FIFA commercial. Did you see that?
no, are you kidding me?
For the World Soccer. They
Oh
played
my,
Weird Science. It went on
wow.
for 3 minutes.
Oh
Complete
my
the greatest athletes in the world, and there I was. I was
That
like,
is, yes, sir,
yeah, I
man.
can't wait for the paycheck.
Yeah, well, that will be a good one, man. Because that's global too, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's the beautiful thing about
it's
music, man. Like, well, okay, so let's let's talk about those days, and I think I don't mind glorifying those days. I mean, for me, the music, has so many different things for people. I mean, those songs came out for me, first girlfriends, roller skating, dating, like my first kisses and all that kind of stuff. Uh, for you, you had this path where you're playing fusion stuff or avant-garde jazz, and then you get the Helen Reddy gig. So you're getting these referrals that come from gig to gig to gig. I remember hearing the story about how Danny sought you out, brought you into the early formation of Oingo Boingo, and
true.
it's a fun story, man. I would love to know like those early days and where your mindset was with being approached by him.
Well, it was, I'd come off the Helen Reddy gig, and a friend of mine, Dave Stores, asked me to play with Tony Basil,
Oh
do a
yeah.
show. Yeah, and so here it was. They had a residency at the Fox Venice Theater, and it was every Friday, and it was the Lockers, their dance group, a couple of guys from Devo, all these incredible, and Tony Basil. And so uh, I was the slamming rock drummer. They had two bass players, two guitar players, percussion, and it was just madhouse. And I'm like pounding away. So Danny and Steve came every night to the show, and at the end of the run, they asked me if I wanted to be in their band. So
Had they already had a
um,
drummer?
they they um, they already had a drummer. So
Okay.
here's why they came to see me play, because Steve Bartek hired me to do a movie date for the Forbidden Zone. There was a
Okay.
movie called The Forbidden Zone that Danny's brother wrote. And if you
Uh,
ever want to see something crazy, check it out. It's called The Forbidden Zone.
okay.
And so I was just a studio musician. So I was the guy that played on that movie. They found out I was playing with Tony Basil. They came to see me live, and they were like, oh my gosh, we want this guy to be in our show. And so they asked me, and I go, of course, yeah, I'd love to do it. Because I talked to Steve, and Steve goes, yeah, he's a real good guy, man.
So
It's
this
worth
okay.
it.
So you didn't know his stuff or anything. You took Steve's recommendation. All right.
Yeah, it was all Steve's. I said, is this guy for real? And he goes, yeah, he's pretty real.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I joined the band, and he goes, oh, and by the way, we have costume changes. Is that going to bother you? And I went, vaudeville? We're doing vaudeville?
Right.
Are
Right.
you kidding me? I love it. We'd walk out in monkey suits. We'd tip the monkey suits off. We'd end up playing in jazz suits with waiter outfits. Then we'd have, we played. My audition was to play Avalon this fast. Dun, 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 dun,
Wow.
dun, 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 dun. So I'm sitting there going, man, how do you play that fast? So I went to the drum shop and I asked Jake Hanna, Jake, how do you play a swing beat really fast? He goes, well, don't plan to try to play that. Just sweep it. I go, okay.
Yeah.
So that's how I got the gig. So that was
Interesting. Right on.
and
Wow.
so
What a weird
so
audition for that gig. That's crazy.
yeah, we did that. So we played gamelan music, West African music. We had all these
And
incredible things. And like I said, I'm easily bored. So um Danny always had, it was always really interesting. So one day he came to rehearsal, and he goes, okay, we're gonna be a rock and roll band. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I'm tired of the props and the outfits and the frog heads and I just tired of it. I go, oh gee, that's awfully boring. Oh, and I've played rock and roll. Oh, I don't know if I want to be. He goes, no, it'll be all right. And here's what happened. See, on the you all, everybody, all the fans only saw what came out, but for every album there were 30 songs, and we could only pick 12.
mm,
So what happened was is that he we rehearsed 3 days a week from 3 in the afternoon till 10 at night with a dinner break at 6. And 3 days a week, we always had new music. Always had new music. Once we learned a song, we would go, okay, that's a song, that's good. Okay, we'd put that away and wouldn't bring it up for another 5 months.
Oh my
We'd
God.
go, okay, we're gonna play a song. Here's the list of the songs. We're gonna do this, this, this. Okay, ready? You had to go home, take your little cassette recorder, write out a chart, and keep all these songs in order and how they all worked. And we were expected to know them, and we did.
How much were you gigging a ton at that point?
Um, it was, I was playing a lot of different side jobs, little,
Okay, so yeah,
mostly just club gigs and sessions here and there, and that kind of stuff.
the
So it was and at first made no money,
right, of course. Well,
and of course,
because it's
yeah,
eccentric stuff, man. Right.
it's just crazy stuff, and it was really really a lot of fun. And Danny's really intense, and like I said, he just kept writing and writing and writing, and we just. Steve's line, Bartek's line was to me when we would walk out on stage. He goes, "Whatever you do, don't blow it."
Yeah.
And at first I thought, what a jerk. What are you talking? So after about 5 years, I go, why do you keep telling me that? Because if you blow it, we're all gonna blow it for sure.
Yeah. Like, he wasn't just like jabbing you, trying to like lighten the load just before you go out on stage.
You just keep it together for us. So, and Danny would turn around and look at me and go, what's the next word? I'd have to tell him remind him the
Really?
lyrics.
Well, because he's writing so many tunes, man. Yeah.
He writes so many songs, and we rehearse them, so I would learn the lyrics sitting there. Okay, only a lad, you really can't blame him.
Oh,
That was
how
in
do
the
you
early days. Then he got a teleprompter, and he didn't need me anymore.
I was gonna say, man, with that many tunes, you'd either have to have a photographic memory or you gotta have
Yeah.
cheat sheets with those, like, because you had all these gigs. I was wondering about this as musicians. A lot of people that watch this show, maybe sort of aspiring musicians, they want to, they're doing a side gig or something, but they would love to be able to have a career doing music. I've had fun
Right.
asking some guys that have done this for a lifelong career about their last day job. So I was
Yeah.
wondering during those gigs, were you actually working like a straight job as well?
I've worked a straight job when I was really young, and I worked another straight job, thank goodness, in the 2000s, like 2006 or so. I did a year job at M Audio
Oh,
because
really?
I knew I'm versed. I build electronic things. I have a technical side of stuff I've been involved with. I built some of the first synthesizers, when you could build them in kits. So I went
Yeah.
through the Spin Air and went through all the electronic stuff. Worked on R&D stuff with DW for the longest time. Don and I went in the early days,
Really?
I'll tell you, I got a story about that too. But yeah, it there you go.
But
There you
well,
go.
yeah, so you mentioned Don Lombardi. I ran into Chris. I got to meet Chris Lombardi, like at Kelly Kiki's wedding actually a couple years ago. What an
Uh-huh.
amazing dude. But we were just chatting lately because drummers out there, probably that DW
Right.
was just purchased by Roland Corporation. So you talked
Right.
about doing R&D with Don in those early days, and you're into
Right.
electronics. So how do you, I mean, just out of your perspective, what do you think is going to happen with DW and with the incorporation of Roland? You think they're going to work on hybrid kits?
Well, they are working on hybrid
Okay.
kits stuff, and they are. When we were one of my concepts, one of the things, because I grew up in the '80s,
Yeah.
Simmons was always after me to. They wanted to endorse me and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things I couldn't get past were those Formica tabletops that you had to play,
Right.
because I was doing shows with like Madness and all these different players were playing them, and they'd play them like drums and they'd hit them and all that, and they get carpal tunnels,
Yeah,
because it's
it's
like
horrible on the wrist.
beating on cement. So what I did was I took, because I built synthesizers before, so I knew the concept of sending a signal, a signaling, a trigger that would signal some sort of action, not necessarily a note, but just a frequency, a beep, a shot of electricity. So what I ended up doing was I got an 8-inch concert tom, stuffed it with foam, got a pinstripe head on top, put an SM57 microphone in it, and so you have pop, 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 pop. You have the air and you have the feel of a drum head. And then I got the microphone, and because of crosstalk of what it can pick up, I got a graphic equalizer, and I went around and tapped everything that made noise, every tom tom and snare, and I found the frequency that it was it, and I cut it out, and I cut every frequency out, and there would be a couple of dead spots. I would spike those, and that would be my trigger. So
Wow.
basically it gave me it was really bad on digital stuff. I was analoging the digital information to death. So even still, because it was pushing voltage along with clicking, so
Yeah.
it did that to the chip.
Sound
So
the sound guys were probably like, "What are you doing, man? What is
yeah,
this?"
and you can see that there's a concert. You can find it on YouTube, live at the Ritz. Look
I've
that
seen
up.
the show.
And I'm playing the DW electronic kick pedal,
Okay.
and I'm playing those concert toms that are in that. Now, fast
Wow.
forward to Roland. So the other day, I'm watching Roland, and they're at their 50th anniversary, and they're talking about how it all worked. What they discovered, coincidentally, the same company I've been with, what they discovered was that instead of sending a broadband spike, instead of having complete broadband connection to a Wi-Fi signal, if they took out all the other signals and found one faint, extremely faint one frequency that wouldn't be affected by anything, well, by gum, that's what you need for Wi-Fi. And the reason I'm talking about this is because the guy from Roland just talked about it. I think it's a trade secret, but I guess not anymore.
Yeah, I think you should be asking for royalty checks there too, my friend. This,
Yeah. Yeah, at least a hearty handshake.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you were already doing DW, sort of R&D stuff, I
Yeah.
think Roland and B, they ought to connect with you,
Yeah,
man. Well,
maybe that's why Don hasn't called me back.
yeah,
Hey.
yeah, I both companies make such incredible. I mean, they're the industry standard. They
Oh
both
yeah.
companies have made the greatest of all the equipment. It's what I'm using out there all the time. I mean, the Roland stuff for a flock of seagulls. They were using the Simmons stuff early on, right? And so it's funny because there's a fan group of people that are really insistent that the original members need to be there, which I'm sure you can relate to,
Mhm.
and uh, and that you're supposed to be playing all the original instruments. Well, those Simmons pads were garbage, man. It's just as you said, they were unique and they look cool and they're nostalgic. But there's a reason that they came out with a different technology, and I do the hybrid thing where I'm just triggering. I have half the sound being acoustic drums and half the sound triggering the original samples from those songs. And it's fun because I grew up listening to those tunes and I can appreciate them, but
Sure.
it sure feels a lot better than Simmons.
Yeah.
But
Well, I wanted to address a question you asked that kind of slipped by
yeah,
me in my my senior brain. Senior brain. Senior, yes, a senior. Senior, yes, senior. It's my senior brain. But you want to talk about people who want to do this for a living. The best
yeah,
advice I ever got from my mom was, Mijo, if you want to be a rock and roll drummer, you're going to have to get a job. If you want to be a jazz drummer, you're going to have to get a job. But if you play every kind of music there is, you'll never have to get a job.
right.
So I went bing. So when I got to high school, I was in the Dixieland band. I was in the orchestra. I was in the marching band.
Oh
I was
yeah,
in the dance group. Anything you can imagine. I was in the LA Junior Philharmonic when I was in high school. You
really?
know, I was
Yeah.
like, I did anything and everything I could possibly do because I knew that, by then in the 60s, I'd heard about the Wrecking Crew, and I'd done enough sessions that knew that they were session players and then people that played out. When I was on the road with Helen Reddy, I was a road musician. but they would never hire me for a session. Jeff Porcaro played on the album.
Of
And
course.
I go, Jeff, you played on the album. He goes, yeah, why don't they use you? What's wrong with them? So
Yeah.
you know the way it works. He goes, oh,
Yes. Man,
you know,
you've rubbed shoulders with like all the greats, man, and they have. Well,
all of them. Yeah.
the great thing is, I mean, you talked about that, with Neil as well. That we are all the same, and you talked when we were chatting earlier too that we all put our pants on the same, and you recognize that the difference that happens between a lot of musicians that just don't get the opportunities. So many of them, it's about personality, attitude, persistence. The hang I talked about. I think my son, when he started playing drums, he got his chops together. Man, his rudiments were amazing. He was into the swing stuff. He got his jazz together, but he just revered Buddy, right? So Buddy Rich, I mean, Buddy's hands, there's none greater, right? But Buddy was an asshole. He's notoriously been just a difficult person to work with, right? And the reason that Buddy was getting all those gigs, of course, he was the best out there. But my son said, well, you can be an asshole and have your own band. Look at Buddy Rich. And I said, he had his own band, right? There's a lot of people that wouldn't work with him, So,
Yeah.
And I said, I mean, just work on being amicable, some
Oh,
personality.
I'm a real Buddy Rich lover.
Yeah, of course.
And I totally agree with him being pissed off. And I totally agree with him with all his craziness crap that he did. Because, it's an amazing thing to be 25 years older than anyone on the bandstand, and to have any 25-year-old younger guy come on stage the way most jacked people come on. Like, hey, how are you, man? I got the gig. Yeah, man, I play pretty good, man. Wait till you hear me lay my crap, man. Babadoo, 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 babadoo. They go, what was that? What was that thing? Here's Buddy Rich with every meticulous note, everything. As anal retentive as I am, I'm sitting there. I'm mixing right now in the middle of mixing, and it's just like I get like this when I listen to it, and I think so little of my drumming oftentimes, and I'm so hard on myself that the John Avila, the bass player who's helping me mix, he goes, John, stop it. You're the best player in this whole track. You're you're the only one not making mistakes.
Oh. Well,
am I? I don't know. Am I? Couldn't it be more perfect? Couldn't it be? You know how crazy we get.
Yeah,
with
for sure.
How good we want to play, and so I'm a Buddy Rich lover, and I think that he's gotten a bad rap, and I'm a big fan of his. I met him.
Really?
He was good friends with Freddie Gruber. So here's a sidetrack, a Buddy Rich sidetrack. He was real good friends with Freddie Gruber. And I used to go see Buddy at Disneyland all the time. So we went back afterwards, and we were standing by the bus. And Buddy walks up to me and goes, hey, John, how are you? And I'm like, he knows my name? He goes, yeah, Freddie talks about you, man. He's, he says you're a good cat. And I listen to you play every day. And I think you got a really good band. And I'm like, you listen to me play every day? He goes, yeah. There's one rule I have in my bus is that you can play any music you want of any band as long as they have horns. And if they have horns, I'll play it on the bus. And you know what I like about your playing, John? He goes, you don't try to sound like me. I said, you mean you can't hear that one note I stole from you and made a career out of?
Well,
and he looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? And I just laughed.
I love that. That's good to know these things, man. I mean, to hear somebody that has a personal connection. And I wasn't trying to bag on Buddy. What I was trying to let the kid know is that, you've got to be amicable. You've got to be an easy hang to work with. Otherwise, you're just not going to keep the game, But that's good to hear this about Buddy because those are not the stories that usually make the news, right? It's always the best.
He was brutal. He could be brutal and mean, and it's just part of it's a hard burden to carry because like I said, Freddie Gruber used to go hang with him in Palm Springs, and they would hang out. Buddy would hang out with Frank Sinatra, and Freddie would go down. They'd be sitting by the pool, and there's a really famous story of my friend who also Bruce Gary. Bruce Gary. Um, Buddy wanted Bruce Gary to marry his daughter, Kathy Rich. So
Yeah.
here's some good stuff. Bruce, I know you're listening to this and laughing your ass off. And so Bruce Gary goes, my Sharona, he goes, man, you can't believe it. Buddy Rich is sitting right in front of me. And I'm playing a drum solo out here in the valley. And he's sitting there like, I'm like, I can't play a drum solo in front of him. And he's playing. And so he when he was trying to really hit on him, he invited him out to come visit him. So they go out. He goes out to Palm Springs, and Freddie Gruber's going to be there, and Buddy's there, and Frank Sinatra's there. Bruce Gary tells his story. The door's cracked. It's kind of open a little bit, and he goes, hello, and he goes, come on back. We're in the pool. We're on the back of the pool. So he walks back there, and they're both naked without toupees on, and he's just like,
Oh man!
So they're swimming all natural and Bruce goes, I was so freaked out, man.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, I'll wait till you guys are done.
Yeah, man. That's when you know you're accepted, right? That's when you know that they brought you into the fold, man. If they're willing to just
Yeah, that's such a funny story. But yeah, I could see Buddy being out of his mind, but I mean, to be the greatest is, it's really rough.
That's a tough bird to carry. Kathy's done a really good job of keeping his legacy solid, man. I see her his daughter.
Kathy?
Well, because she's always promoting so much of his stuff, right? I mean, that's yeah.
Better than Amway.
Yeah. Right. That's true. Have you ever had to work with a taskmaster that just busted your balls? You've kind of been a front, like the band leader for a lot of your projects, right?
Yeah. Well, I was the one that got together. I did the old, after the band broke up, I waited 10 years because I didn't want Danny to go, well, you just want to keep playing.
Yeah. Was that
So
95?
I waited 10 years like Creedence Clearwater, and I just said, okay, let's play some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And people liked it, and we've been playing it ever since. And at first Danny really hated it and didn't want us to do it. Then we had our little lawyer thing going back and forth, and then he kind of agreed that it was okay. And then people that wanted to book the band wanted to use Oingo Boingo, and we couldn't use that name. And so I begged a little bit more, and we got to use Boingo. And then all of a sudden we got to use Boingo Dance Party. And then one day I was really moaning and pissing and moaning. And Danny, in all his infinite wisdom, he goes, well, through his lawyers and everything, why don't you just call yourself Oingo Boingo former members? Because that's what you are.
Oh.
I said, perfect.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. So
that came from him. Interesting.
Yeah, that came from him. So he picked our name, and it's good with me. Yeah. And here's the beauty of that. And it only works because it's not supposed to work. It's supposed to be a slight. And if you think of it in past history, it's stupid and makes no sense. But here's the beauty of it. There has nobody been more culturally prolific in music composition than Danny Elfman.
Totally. Yeah. When's the last time you went to a movie that you didn't see his name in the soundtrack, right?
Exactly. The scores, the classical music that he's written.
Yeah.
And he's a world-renowned composer. He's the Berlin Philharmonic want him to write. Everybody wants him to write for them. He's a serious composer. Yeah. And he's as raw and as irreverent as he was during the Mystic Nights of the Oingo Boingo. He might as well be wearing a monkey suit because I saw his percussion ensemble, his concerto.
Yeah.
It's the best percussion ensemble ever written.
Really?
Because I grew up around percussionists who went to learn how to write how to write for an orchestra so they could write their perfect percussion concerto. But the
Yeah.
problem is that they have too much respect for the instrument, and they just can't wait to show you their six mallet technique.
Right.
And it's
Yep.
just,
Yeah.
where Danny is irreverent in the way of not musically, but irreverent in the way of his bizarre
Yeah.
breaking mallet rules for striking. Striking mallet rooms, striking combinations, three percussionists, one solo percussionist, 45 strings, piano, harp, and it's just amazing. It's
Wow.
just unbelievable. It's just so complicated, so intense. Nobody in my age group can play it.
Wow.
I met the guy, the Scottish percussionist, who had the privilege of being the lead percussionist on it, and he was like, just like you and I would be. Oh, I wanted this job. I
Yeah.
knew he was going to write. I mean, I sent him letters, man. I sent him a demo tape, man. I told him, man, I'm the guy, and then when he met me, he goes, oh my God, I get to meet you.
Wow.
You're the
Really?
unbelievable. Yeah. So
That's
it was like a
cool.
whole, once again, it was the cross cultural
Yeah.
connection, and I have the privilege of like playing and I recorded all this music with him. And it's just not something he did when he was like, yeah, well, we used to get stoned and we wrote
Right.
music and now I'm retired, and no, the guy never looked back.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's it's just amazing the stuff that he does. So I don't feel guilty about playing it.
no. Well, I mean, honestly, if you didn't do it, think about all the people that be out there. I mean, we've done a good handful of shows together over the last decade, and
Yeah,
the band, dude, your band is so good. The songs, and I watch how nuts people get when they hear those songs again. You're giving these
sure,
people a chance to, to see a part of their life again that they kind of forgot about. And especially, you know what? I think the greatest thing about a lot of the package shows that we've been doing, like those Lost 80s live things, is that Rob assembled the big group of all these bands that had representational songs of people's best times of their life, right? So then they go
sure,
through, they get older, and they've got kids, and they've got jobs, and they've got taxes, and they've got layoffs and dead parents and whatever else, horrible, things that you go through in life. But those songs are the beautiful reminder of when nothing else mattered, right? And things were great. The songs had this just this joy about them. So you guys still
sure.
bring that, and I know that you are still writing stuff too, right? You and John, you said you're in the studio with John right now. Are you doing more Boingo stuff or more
Yeah,
for more?
we did we recorded live at the Coach House and we're mixing those tracks. So
Okay,
it was yeah, and the band
nice.
sounded great. It's like so amazing.
That singer blows my mind. I
He's
cannot
an
believe the dude.
amazing. Yeah.
Because he looks like a kid. Is he really as young as he looks?
No, he's already like 38 or so.
Okay, yeah. The first time I saw him, I think, man, I'm trying to think of like which show he might have been doing. Like that, was it the Greek? Maybe that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember watching this guy, and I'm like, this guy's not old enough to know these tunes, like his parents might be, but yeah, he
Oh, so
nails it.
that's his story. His story. The reason he's in the band was I met him and his brother Bear McCrary. They were going to USC, and I met them at a party. And they go, "Hey, where we could find a drummer? We really like your playing, and we want this, we want that." And I go, "Well, I'll show up. I'll do it." They were like, "What?" So I rehearsed with them out at USC for about 3 or 4 times,
You're hanging
and
at
then
USC college parties. Look at you, Johnny.
USC, the music school, Thornton School of Music.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking University of Southern California. Like you're just
Yeah,
hanging
that
out.
is. Yeah,
Yeah, but
University.
you're just hanging out at like college parties, and you met these
No,
guys.
no, no, no,
Oh,
no. I met no. I was doing a solstice concert at on the Frank Lloyd Wright um, property, and Ray Manzarek and John Densmore and all these people were there doing a concert, and I was the drummer, and
Nice.
Bear McCreary was going out on his first date with his wife, and I was the date. We're going to go to a party and we're going to meet Johnny Vatos.
Oh, nice. Did you
So,
jump out of the cake?
and the reason they found out is because they knew my daughter Rio. My
Okay.
oldest daughter Rio reads scripts for a living, and she's in the movie industry, and she knew Bear, and Bear goes, "I'd love to meet your dad." So I was going to be playing this concert, and my daughter Rio goes, "This is Bear McCrary. He's been wanting to meet you." So I started playing with their band, and so I meet Brendan at rehearsal, and he tells me the story. He goes, "Well, yeah, I graduated high school in 1995."
Oh, no. Oh, man.
And
Yeah.
so I I had a band, and we were going to play Graduation, and I got to rehearsal the day before the show, a day before the graduation, and of course they were high school kids and they didn't know any of the music. So he said, "Damn it, okay, so I'm going to show you this song," and he showed him "We Close Our Eyes."
Oh, wow.
So he played "We Close Our Eyes" at their graduation. He said everyone was crying.
Yeah.
It was a powerful moment, and the band sounded good because it was a simple song to learn. And so they confessed that Bear and him knew every song we ever recorded.
Really?
So he just walked in and he knew the tunes.
Wow. Man, you could
Could
tell. I
I
mean,
have lucked out on that?
yeah, well, is it luck? Is it
It
luck?
was luck. It was fate. It was luck. It was
Yeah, see, I talk to people about this a lot, man. I'm less and less convinced of luck these days and more about fortune. We're fortunate to have opportunities we have. We've made a lot of those things because luck just kind of insinuates that you just don't deserve it, right? But you put
that's
this out,
true. That's very true. Very well put. Fortune.
but
I'm going to start using that.
yeah,
I had the good fortune.
the
Dave
and-
Carlotto. I had that good fortune of Helen Reddy gig. I had the good fortune of meeting Steve Bartek, who turned me on to Danny. That was it's always been. And then after that, I started playing with Tito and Tarantula. Tito
oh,
La
nice.
Riva was a 80s punk band called the Cruzados, and they had a hit called Motorcycle Girl from a movie. And anyway, Tito hired me to do this show for Culture Clash. It was on Fox, and we did it for about 2 or 3 years. And Robert Rodriguez came down and was doing a movie from dusk till dawn. He goes, "I want that drummer in there." So I'm in that movie, and I toured with that band till 9/11 in Europe for about 6 years after it.
Oh,
So I
the, gl-
love Germany. I love Europe. I would love to live there. I'd love to retire there.
Yeah, babe. Well, first of all, that's the greatest scene in a movie. I remember that part of it. And from Dusk Till Dawn, there's a venue in Portland, and I see Scott Kramer here in the chat. So, Scott, you'll appreciate this. Casa Diablo in Portland is basically recreated to be like the Titty Twister place from Dusk Till Dawn. Same kind of casita, but Germany. And talk about Europe, man. I'm interested to know about that because, of course, so my band Liverpudlians, right? They're from the UK. We play over there quite a bit. I love Western Europe so much.
Yeah.
I fall in love with the Netherlands and Belgium and
Yeah.
so I'm curious to know when you're touring over there, because that especially Boingo, I'm sure had a big following in that area as well. So have you taken the Boingo guys over there as well to do those shows?
No,
No.
no. I've just been there with Tito
Okay.
and
I,
Tito and Tarantula. Yeah,
I,
the band is too big, and everyone's too old to do anything that's not comfortable.
sure. Yeah.
Like we've
Nobody wants
done
to
it
ride
all.
around in a van.
You know,
How many
riding
members
in
are
a
in
van.
that band? How many guys do you have in that band?
10 guys,
10. Yeah, that's
10,
nuts.
10 people.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, it is a lot of mouths to feed, and then there's a couple of crew guys,
Right.
so all that kind of stuff. But it's if the budget's there, totally wonderful. It's
Oh
just great.
yeah, man. Well, it's a killer band. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
like this how well-rounded you are, with all these different styles. If and you have a really unique kind of style too that a lot of guys that have had some studio experience, if they're studio drummers, they don't translate as well on live shows, and you talked about how Steve and Danny would come see you play and they could see you're a heavy hitter, you could hit, but you also had the fundamental chops. So you kind of transition, you do both really, really well, man. Uh,
Right.
if you were assembling maybe sort of a greatest hits of artists, so you're going to put together a dream band for you. So give me a singer, bass player, guitarist, keyboardist. Give me your all-star band. So you're like Ringo. So you put together instead of Ringo's all-star band, we got Vatos all-star band. So give me your players.
Okay, so you're talking a genre. You're talking rock and roll, right? You're not talking
Anything.
you're
You could
not
have
talking you're not talking a Latin band.
oh
You're
yeah,
not
you can have Tito
talking
you can have Tito
you're not, yeah. I mean, there's just so many bands and musicians. My list is as eclectic as putting it together.
So you got Antonio Vivaldi back there on violin and cello.
Yeah, it's just um I've always loved playing with John Avila. I
Yeah.
think the best band I have to say that I ever played with in my life, next to Oingo Boingo. Oingo Boingo is the most famous, the most intellectual, the most the composition is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Danny's both his parents were teachers. The man has a vocabulary that's unbelievable, and you can hear it in all his lyrics. He's clever. He's harmonically. It's just a great thing, but just an all out, balls out band that I ever played in was Food for Feet. And
Okay. Really?
Food for Feet was the best of the best. It was
Okay.
John Avila playing bass and a guy named Mike Tovar playing guitar. And I was just reliving the audition. This is how it is. The audition with my son tonight at dinner. I go, okay, here's what it was. They walked into. I was going through my first divorce. They set up in my front room for 2 hours. We played free, not a beat, not a chorus, not a verse, nothing. Just
Mm.
back, 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 and they're going. And Mike's going. It went on for 2 hours. After 2 hours, I looked around. My head was exploding. I threw the sticks down. I held my belly, laughing so hard that these guys had not stopped. And I said, I give. That's it. I
Yeah.
give. And they go, you're in the band. That's
Wow.
it.
That was the audition.
That was
The
the audition.
uncle. You cried uncle.
So we went on the road. I mean, I literally drove the van half the time, driving across the United States. We made no money.
Yeah.
My second girlfriend hated the band.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
They hated it.
Play me a
I
song I
made
can
no,
dance to.
yeah, it's like ridiculous. So I got to play a drum solo every night,
Oh my
and it
God.
was just, to me, I didn't really care after that. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
So, but you know how this is another great stupid story. So we're on the road, and it's like 3, 4 in the morning, and it's like by that time you're so caught up. When you're on the road, you get caught up in your own madness. And so
Yeah.
every night my drum solo would get weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder. One day the guitar player recorded it, and he gets this glare in his face. He says, listen to this. I want you to listen to this. What the hell does this mean? What does this mean? And he played it for me, and I just started laughing. I said, "That's so insane." And not only that, so I said, well, ready for this? I pulled out, I had a cassette. I played with this avant-garde trombone player named Mike Vlatkovich. And one of the first sessions I did for him, he knew I was nuts. he had me play a drum solo. He goes, okay, now on another track, I want you to answer your drum solo. I said, sure, I can do that. So I did it. And
So,
I gave,
dueling solos with yourself.
yeah. And so there's a recording of it somewhere.
Oh my God! Yeah, I have to hear this, man. We need to.
Totally
You know
out,
what?
man. Totally out.
It,
It was so much fun.
it's so fun for musicians. I would imagine that's the part where, you know, people start heading for the bar to get a drink. You know, when you go into
It,
your dueling.
it was.
But,
It was. It was. It was just craziness. And you know, it's like Spinal Tap. Boy, a lot of young
yeah,
men really like your music.
right. Yeah, it's lots of sausage at those gigs, man. Well, the stuff that you're doing now that you mentioned, you're mixing this thing with John.
Mhm.
There's the live at the Coach House gig. Coach House still has like the tables right up front of the stage, right?
Yeah,
Same.
it's the same as it has since the 70s.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
same. It's a
Weird gig.
weird, same old sleazy rock and roll, good fun.
I mean, it really has a nostalgic charm. I think the last time we played there, I was doing the Animotion gig. We played there, and it was like 110 degrees there, you know, in Capistrano, and the air conditioning, of course, didn't work, right? So you're playing in that venue with no air conditioning. It's 110, and people are loving it. But man, I'm too fat for that, dude. I sweat when it's cold, you know, so that kills me. But you, when you're doing some of those gigs, I was thinking about you playing samba behind Helen Reddy, and my picture in my mind was this glare, right? Like what in the hell are you doing? Have you had some of those gigs, like just some of those where like just shit just goes wrong on stage, man? Because we were laughing earlier about how you
Right.
kind of have to roll with it. You have any time or experiences that the rails just went off and you held on for dear life,
Sure.
or you lost?
I've made every, like Peter Allen used to say in a song, I made every mistake at least twice. And I've
Yeah,
done it. I've done it and enjoyed doing it. Like,
sure.
dun, like hitting the cymbal after they cut the band off an
Totally missed
orchestra,
the downbeat.
So yeah. So there's been some great train wrecks, but one of the ones I can guarantee you that always happens, and people don't believe me, one of the things you can never do to me is talk to me on stage.
Oh yeah.
Do not talk to me on stage. You know why? Because I'm going to listen to you. I cannot play. Okay, we're going to go over to this and we're going to do this and we're going to turn it around. Dude, we do that at rehearsal. I didn't hear a word you just said. Didn't you hear me, man? And it's like, I'll stop playing and I go, look, no, I didn't hear you, man. We're in the middle of a song. And if you stop me one more time, we're not going to finish the song. Then I sit down and start playing again. I've literally, that's a guaranteed train wreck.
Well, I told you, I mean, for this, like my show, my whole hope was to be able to go and hang backstage and do a lot of our conversations. And
Yeah.
and I mentioned to you that one of the things I feel bad about is when we do shows together. There's really, but you mentioned, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
wrong time to do any interviews because you mentioned.
Totally wrong. I'm I get very nervous. I'm very seriously nervous because I not only I'm a band leader and I have to worry about everyone's well-being on stage. I have to worry about if the arrangements are good. I have to worry. I worry about people that have spent a lot of money to come see me play and they're not
Yeah,
going to get a good show, or if the sound's not right, or you know, I never go on like, hey, how's it going? Let me put my joint out and let me tell you how it's going to be.
yeah.
I'm like this, and it's kind of nerve wracking. But yeah, I'm not real good before a show.
Well, I think it's cool. I mean, it's a lot of respect that you pay, for people that come out to the shows. And because we all know bands that kind of mail it in. They're there just to
Yeah,
collect a
I
check. And
hate bands like that.
me too, man. I mean, I feel that same sort of responsibility. If they're coming out and they're paying for tickets, chances are they got babysitters, they're taking a night off work, or they flew
Yeah,
in, they got hotels. But I've never seen you or your band mail it in. I think it's cool to see that there's a real effort to try and provide for people. I think the last show that we all did together was that Thunder Valley show in Lincoln, California. And
Yeah.
I remember the cool thing about this, and we chatted about it earlier, is that there are multiple generations of people that were at that show. You had 60-year-olds with their 40-year-old kids, with their 20-year-old kids at that show, and everybody in between. And
Yeah.
they were all talking about, even if those kids hadn't heard the songs before, they felt like they were part of the show because they really, you made them feel that way.
Yeah. I, one of the things I'd really like to do is play high school shows again, because the band is so intense and requires, it's shocking, and a lot of young people aren't used to. Let me put it to you another way. Young people aren't used to seeing a good lounge act, from Vegas, the snap, crackle, and pop, They come on, they don't stop, and they hit you in the face, and they smack you in the forehead, because we don't stop.
It's true.
You don't know the song, too bad. We're not going to stop and go, well, that was really good. Our next song's going to be 5 minutes from now after I tell you how incredible it was.
Right.
Like, dude.
Do you guys, it looks like you guys are having a blast up there too. It looks like personality wise, everybody clicks, and you guys, you get along, and there are
more
some
fun
jokes.
than when Danny was in the band.
Was he? Yeah. So was he not? Because his music was cerebral and quirky, but but it wasn't real. Not a lot of jokes happening on stage.
No, we found a way to make jokes, but he was more okay. I go, okay, Danny, sure. All right, we're not gonna mess up. Sure, okay, all right. Come on, guys. All right.
Wound a little tight.
And I get all that out at rehearsal. I do my yelling and screaming so that when we get ready to play, I just play.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I love the fact that you're playing every day too. That's inspiring to me because you talk about getting up and playing different kind of, styles and percussion instruments. I I hold up out here in the woods in New Mexico, and I just got myself an electronic kit that I can, catch back up again because we're in a little downtime, between gigs. But
Yeah.
how about for you for live shows? Do you have some stuff coming up?
Well, we're going to be playing with the Untouchables on March 25th up in Monterey,
Oh, sweet.
and that should be a good gig. And then we have a big Cinco de Mayo weekend uh, in California at the Coach House
Okay.
on Cinco de Mayo, and we're playing one of the Canyon Clubs in Montclair on Saturday night, and on Sunday we're playing at the Libby Bowl, which is kind of a cool thing. It's outside, and it's in Ojai.
Oh,
And
really?
so, yeah, man. So that's our next big gigs coming up, and there's a lot of stuff, but those are the ones right now I can talk about.
Right on. Yeah, like those are public consumption. Are you guys getting hit with crazy rains there with the last storms?
Yeah, but I love it. I mean, unfortunately, I'm in Southern California.
Yeah.
We do have friends in Berkeley that are having a hard time, and we do have friends in Sacramento that aren't doing so well. But the dams are doing pretty well. They're
Right.
starting to fill up, which is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, you need it, man. It's been
Yeah.
a tough, rough, dry couple of years, man. But
Well, I want to come visit you out there in New Mexico.
buddy, right now, I couldn't believe how much snow is here. I grew up in Montana originally. I had tons of
Uh,
snow. I couldn't wait to get out of the mountains to go to the city, right? Chase rock stardom. And now I think the pandemic did this for me. It made me realize how much I wanted some peace and solitude. And I am loving it, man. I've got tons of snow, and it's it's gorgeous. So I'd love to have you come visit. And
have you run into my friend Darren yet? Darren Gray.
I haven't seen
Darren
Darren.
Bishil Gray. He's a Southwest artist, and he's a drummer.
Okay.
And DW built me a drum set. And what the beauty of my relationship with DW and stuff, and Don and John, is that you know I get to be a spoiled brat, and if I don't like something, I send it back.
Really?
Some
Yeah.
guys will take drums and then go sell them somewhere, but I have a more integrity to that. And I go, honestly, I'm sorry, man. I'm not going to sell this, and I'm not going to use it. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And so they custom made me a set, beautiful powdered blue set. It was gorgeous, hand painted, metal flake. It was gorgeous, all the sizes. And for some reason, it just didn't sit right to me. And so we ended up. Darren got it. Darren, who lives
Really?
in Santa Fe.
No kidding.
Darren Gray. So
Okay.
you see a powdered blue DW hand painted kit. You're gonna go,
Oh my God,
are you
man.
Darren? He goes, yeah, I'm Johnny Vatos' friend.
Yes, man. Yeah, buddy. I'll track it down. You
Yeah.
know, if there's a hand painted kit around here, that guy better be out here playing it, So
Oh yeah, he's a great musician and an incredible artist. Just
that's the community here. I love the
yeah,
fact, man, that there are tons of artists here, and yeah, it's going to be a great place to sort of come home. We've got a lot of shows coming up, and this will be my
yeah. You're
respite.
touring a lot, right?
We do quite a bit. Yeah, I think we've got
Yeah,
60 shows or something this year, so it's
yeah.
going to keep me
That's great,
busy.
man. Good for you, man.
Thank you. I hopefully a handful of these, we get to do again together, buddy.
Yeah,
Because
me too. Me too.
I've, I love your playing, and even more so, man. I love your heart and your wit. It's great to get to know you more. And if people get out there, check out when is the Oingo Boingo former members live at Coach House coming out?
At the coach house, we're going to be Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, I mean the live record. When are you guys going to produce or release that record?
Oh, well, we're going to start releasing tracks for Valentine's Day.
Oh,
So
nice. Okay.
next month. So we're going to start. I'm going to start by releasing 2 or 3 live tracks, and then maybe 1 studio track, and some
Oh,
original music that
nice.
we've been working on.
So
And
fun.
for forevermore, this is really bizarre, but Oingo Boingo Day LA is always on 420.
Oh, of course. Oh, that's right.
Are you kidding? 420? Yep, that's when we got a call from they go, we want you to come down. We're going to give you Oingo. We're going to make Oingo Boingo Day LA, and I go, okay, great. Well, when are you gonna do it? We'll do it on 420. And I go,
Of course.
are you kidding me? Do you know what that means? He goes,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever. It's 420. They work at the city. They don't know.
Oh, they know. They know. They caught wind of who you are. They're like, all right. So Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong and Johnny Vatos Hernandez, those 3, maybe a little Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg. You guys
That's
all get
right.
to claim the day. Yeah. Well, man, I can't wait to come out and see it. Coming to see you at the Coach House for Cinco de Mayo might be an awesome trip
Yeah,
up
it
there
would be
too.
fun. And I always
I
like hearing you play, and I'm glad you're out there playing the hits. It's
thank you, buddy.
beautiful, man. You're
Well,
my band.
yeah. Well,
I love
I did that
love
gig
it.
for almost 16, but I started doing Flock of Seagulls gig like 7 years ago, and
Yeah.
I made the move just that way. But Animotion, those guys are family to me, and that was when I
Yeah,
first
I
met
love
you.
them.
So I should say this to wrap up the show, man. I know that the handful of people that are watching this are in Portland, Oregon. This coming weekend, Bill Wadhams, the singer from Animotion, has this unbelievable one-man show. I saw excerpts of it, and this is his premiere. This is so he's got a one-man show on Friday and Saturday night. It's called Up in the Air. It's a musical sort of biographical piece that he put together. That's this weekend. I think they just opened up a few more tickets. So if you're out there and you're in Portland, go check out Bill Wadhams and Up in the Air in Portland, his musical one-man show debut. And Johnny Vatos Hernandez, man, we will be watching for live former members of Oingo Boingo record. Those tracks coming out soon. And dude, thank you again so much, man, for making this time happen. I really appreciate it. I
Great,
will
man.
find you.
Thank you.
Let's go hang
Okay.
out at DW together, can we?
Yeah, man. We can. We can.
Okay.
We can go
All right.
push over some music stands and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Don't you know who he is? Yeah, that'd be fun, man. I really happy New Year to you, brother, and thank you
Happy
for
New
making the
Year.
time. All right, you guys
Peace.
out there, if you
All
if
right.
you
Be
enjoyed the
safe.
show, like it, subscribe it, and On the 23rd, just a few days from now, Robin McCauley. You know him from Michael Schenker Group and McCauley Schenker Group. He'll be on the show, 5 o'clock Pacific. Take care, guys.